Happy Monday. I'm Rob Mack.
And I'm Jasmine Moyer. Welcome to EverTalk Live, coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. for all things happiness in Hollywood, a little pop culture and positivity. Happy Monday, Rob.
Happy Monday. It is sunshine and so nice out. I just love it.
So nice. Well, LA is just loving on us because we're about to leave it.
This is true. This is the way things go, isn't it?
Yes, we are headed to Miami this week. I couldn't be more excited.
I know. I love being in Miami. I love being in LA. I love being in Miami, and I get to go with some of my favorite people.
Yes, and introduce some of his favorite people on Friday's show. We will be coming to you live from Miami, from the East Hotel in Miami.
That's right.
Rickle.
I know. Get to see some friends. Kina McGregor, she was the founder of Miami Life Center. She's one of the youngest yoga Ashtanga masters ever. Female, yeah. So just incredible. I actually started my career really at Miami Life Center. I was like their resident life coach. And so she's been a longtime friend. And then Sarah Spiritual, she's got a big sort of radio show, and she's a teacher, a spiritual teacher.
Well, with a name like Sarah Spiritual,
you
she's got to be on brand.
You would imagine, exactly.
Yeah.
Melanie Whittle, who's in luxury real estate now, but she worked as a fashion stylist for like luxury brands. And
wait, hang on, the Melanie that gave you this Rob Mack
yes,
iconic
exactly.
style?
She's great about that. Yes, she's really an expert on aesthetics, and she helps people really develop sort of their signature style on one hand, but also just kind of get clear about what lifestyle choices make sense for them as a person and as a professional. So yeah, I'm excited about this.
Well, I'm super excited. I can't wait for you to show me your Miami, Rob.
All right, I'm excited about the keynote.
Oh, I'm terrified. I'm not gonna lie, I'm so excited, but I'm equal parts terrified. You know, putting on a show in front of a camera is one thing.
Yes.
Putting on a show in front of a bunch of strangers is a whole other. I'm giving a talk on Hollywood meets market structure arbitrage. And because this is the language that, you know, I've only been learning for a couple years now, stock trading, it's like, okay, let me go up and speak Chinese to everyone and hope it makes sense. So
you said something so profound, Jess, which I just love, is that you said it's actually easier for you and you're more comfortable speaking to and through cameras than it is like a crowd of people. Huh?
Absolutely.
That's fascinating.
Well, and it's interesting too, because as an actor, if I'm, you know, in a theater production, I lose the audience, right? So I'm behind a character, I don't even feel the audience, but when you're yourself standing in front of a room with all eyes on you, that's a whole different vibe.
That is true.
You're responsible for almost holding that energy. You know, I really give it to stand-up comedians because
I agree.
to be able to work the room that is an art.
Totally, especially when their expectations are so high, like with something like stand-up comedy.
Exactly.
But I bet you there was at least one exception in your life, and that is when you did runway shows, right? Would you say that you thrived on those?
I did. I love runway shows. But that's because, okay, you've spent hours in hair and makeup, you've been gowned out, you look the best you've ever looked for the most part, and then you just get to walk and the music's on. But for me, that was almost more like acting.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like myself. I was, you know, some princess on this island or some rock star on stage. You know, I could really channel the character.
Oh man, I loved runway shows. I think it was the music. It's the music, and if they just play the right song at the right time when it's your turn, it's like so much fun.
Okay, so what's your runway song?
Oh man, I mean, any Jay-Z song I love.
Really?
Oh yeah, Rihanna. Okay. You know, anything that's sort of like upbeat, a little trendy. I want something with a little bit of an edge. You know, it's nice. So I loved those like when Jay-Z did that mashup with Linkin Park. That was a great album for
that was a great
shows.
one. And also MGMT. You remember that band?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I felt like I opened and closed every show to MGMT. Even so when I hear it, it's like I can't help but like start doing the runway.
Yes. Did you have a blue steel and a Magnum look, Jess?
Oh, of course.
It's awesome.
And apparently I still get into that resting BITC phase that blue steel at the bar, which could be a reason why I don't get picked up very often.
It's good. Keeps you out of trouble too, probably, you know.
Exactly. Well, I'm very excited to welcome our special guest to the show. Good morning.
Back
in the studio.
Hello. Hi. How are you?
Thank you so much for being with us. Al Ross is back in the house, and this time we are talking her latest book, Confident as Beep.
Yep.
Good morning, Al. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys? So glad to be back here.
Oh, thank you so much for being with us. So, you know, on the show, we like to talk a lot about morning routines. Is there something you're doing differently this year or this season to wake up and stay woke?
Well, aside from a cup of coffee, you know, same answer as was last time, where I try to get up and play a YouTube affirmation from someone, like a recording that is gratitude in some capacity. And I actually really like a guy named Justin Perry from You Are Creators. He's got like hundreds of just affirmations, whether it be prosperity or gratitude. Because before you get to email and all that stuff, sometimes it's nice to wake up and just have someone repeating, I'm so grateful for my hands, my arms, the sky. things we forget about. So sometimes I just press play right away as I'm getting up and pouring the cup of coffee and have a good at least 20 minutes of that roll in before I get to email and all of that stuff, just to try to set my mind in the right direction.
Oh, fantastic. Do you have a favorite affirmation these days that you're using?
I am confident as F.
Yes, fair enough.
Maybe that's it.
Awesome, love that one.
Yes.
Oh, love it. We love Al.
We do.
I'm so grateful you're with us. Nolan Gross is in the house. Congratulations, releasing your debut album on Friday.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we want to know, how do you wake up and stay woke? What's your morning routine?
My morning routine, I would say I like to meditate before I start the day. Either meditate and go to the gym or meditate and just start the day. But just meditate for like 15 minutes and then grab a little smoothie or acai bowl and get the day started, because I'm not a huge breakfast fan, but a little acai bowl or smoothie will get me started. So.
Love that. You not only shared some of the best practices in LA, but your delivery was very LA as well.
Thank
Very
you.
relaxed, yeah.
Well, thank you both so much for being with us. We look forward to continuing the conversation later in the show.
That's awesome. Love that meditation is like sweeping the world.
Sweeping the world. And I think it's so key to be grounded. What's really special about, each of those guests is that they're both struggling with something and have overcome in a way that nobody anticipated.
Yes.
Right? Nolan's struggling with Tourette's, and now he put that experience to his music. Al has mastered the thyroid solution and certain disabilities that we share, and now has best-selling books and podcasts. It's you never know what somebody's experiencing.
Boy.
But they can really overcome and make it shine. I'm so
Isn't that
excited
true,
and
Jess? I love you
motivated.
saying that. One of my favorite basketball players growing up was a guy named Chris Jackson. Chris Jackson played at LSU. He was like the guy was like a sniper with the basketball. And I discovered later that he had Tourette's. And part of what he had learned through the practice of Tourette's was that it made him almost obsessive and compulsive about practicing all the time. He'd put up more shots than practically anybody else. And as a result of that, he ended up being one of the greatest shooters of all time. And I just think it's so fascinating to me that sometimes hidden within these challenges and hidden within adversity is like the greatest gift and the greatest blessing. And I particularly love folks like I guess we have on today that have overcome great trials and tribulations and experiencing triumph now. It's just so awesome.
It's so encouraging for people to really tell their story too. Grammy Award-winning artist Billie Eilish has recently come out about her experience with Tourette's as well. And I try and be vulnerable, but for me that's very hard, being vulnerable about my chronic pain condition and my disability, and you feel like you might be judged or there's some level of shame around it, but really the success is in your story, and the more you share, the more vulnerable you are, the more you can deeply connect with anyone and inspire them, and that's what it's really all about. I mean, a great song is a great song, right? We all want to be the bad guy and win the Grammys, but what it's really about is connecting and truly changing someone's life.
I love that, Jess. I couldn't agree with you more. It's funny because I had the opposite problem growing up. Like all I did was cry and share all of my problems all the time. It was like a thing. I just was a very emotional kid. I guess empathic really. I was an empath. And so I had to actually learn how to dial that back because I was too vulnerable. I was beyond vulnerable. I was just always crumbling. And so I think, and I love what you're saying here, because there is a sweet spot, right? There's a sweet spot where you're sharing what you're most vulnerable about, and you're letting people in so that you can connect in a real meaningful way. And also realizing that in the connection, you can grow and you can become stronger through that. So I just love you sharing that, Jess. It's freaking awesome.
Well, thanks. Thanks for holding that space so I can do that every day, Rob.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Of course. It's interesting. It brings up a topic I wanted to talk a little bit about today, which was like problem solving. So I don't know about you, but most of my life I feel like there's always some new problem that I need to solve, or maybe some old problem.
Right? Do you think you're going to get there? You've made it, and then there's no more problems, except the problems are just still there. They just look different.
Yes, exactly. And it's like life is this huge game of like whack-a-mole.
Right.
Remember that game? Did you ever play that game?
Yes.
Chuck E. Cheese.
I have an inner rage. That's why I like that game. Yes.
Yeah, I want to see that. So it's like life can feel that way. And so there's a couple of thoughts that I have around that. One is like ultimately you want to learn how to unplug the machine altogether, right? And so that's about learning to not think. The brain, the mind, is really great at solving problems, but it also tends to be the greatest troublemaker of all time. Like I remember actually having the experience. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, where you're like finally in a place in your life, or just maybe a place in the day, where you're not worrying, and the fact that you're not worrying worries you.
Yep, and then you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop.
You're literally like, oh no, there's something here I should be worried about. So in any case, I think the ultimate solution is learning to quiet the mind and learning how many of our problems aren't really problems, and that what we think is the problem is not the problem. The real problem is a mind that sees everything as a problem. It's like when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Make sense?
Oh, completely.
Right? Yeah.
I read something very interesting that kind of speaks to this conversation in accepting what is right now. And just because you have to, that you accept it, doesn't mean it's acceptable.
That's right. That's right. And it also doesn't mean you have to think about it. I used to think that accepting it meant, okay, I've been diagnosed with something, or something is going wrong, or I've got $0 or negative $300,000 in my bank account, and I'm going to now think about that a lot, and I'm going to focus on that a lot, but I've discovered it doesn't mean that at all. In fact, what science has found is that if you can distract yourself long enough, your mood will rise on its own. And when your mood rises on its own, you have access to creative solutions that you didn't have access before when you felt like crap.
That's
right?
a hashtag Moyer Rosé kind of moment.
It is. Another vote for a little rosé. Yeah. So it's interesting. So anyway, the point today, I think for me at least, is to remember that problems and answers, or problems and solutions, are always on two different pages. Like, do you remember taking the test back in school, and like you'd have the question, but in order to get to the answer, you had to go to the back of the book? You remember that?
Oh, so frustrating. Yes, just put it right there for me.
But they're on different pages.
Yeah.
And so that means that the consciousness or thinking that created the problem isn't the same consciousness and thinking that's going to let you solve the problem. So if you can, put your problems on the back burner for a while, let your mood rise, and then go back in, try to work on the problem. But you might discover, as I often do, that when I'm relaxed, all of a sudden ideas and solutions and answers surface on their own.
Amen.
Right? Yeah.
That's good.
Is that good?
That's good.
Okay,
Thanks, Rob. We needed that today. Well, keep streaming. We'll be back with some incredible guests on EverTalk Live. I'm Jessamine Moyer. This is EverTalk Live, coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. in the Ever Media Studios for a little Hollywood and happiness, positivity, and pop culture. On Apple TV and Roku via the EverTalk app, and of course streaming live on all socials.
I've got so much love in my life, and then I get to do this with you every single day. I mean, it's incredible.
If you have a dream, do not let anything stop you.
You can have all the money or all the success in the world, but if you don't have peace, it's all worthless, really, right?
Happiness from the inside out. Please be sure, if you haven't read this book,
Sweet.
you've got to.
I love
what we do.
I do too, Jess.
Miracles. I'd like just my life to be an example that miracles exist. I am just so grateful that we get to be a part of this journey together, Rob, whether it's 4 a.m. texting up peanut butter and jellies, or coming to you live Monday through Friday every 9 a.m. You know when you're going to see that, Eddie?
Yes.
When we're holding it in our own hands, Rob, for Best Digital Daytime Talk Show.
What makes people lucky, like actually lucky, is that they believe they're lucky.
Thank you for being my mentor, Rob.
Likewise.
He didn't even know it.
True.
I'm out all the time. I'm everywhere. I'm drinking my wine. I'm doing the show. I'm stepping and repeating on some kind of red carpet. I had a little too much. I was like, one drink Jeslyn. One drink Jeslyn. 2 tequila Jeslyn. 2 tequila Jeslyn.
1 drink Jazz.
Is this 1 drink Jeslyn? I hope you're proud, Rob.
I'm very
reading
proud
a
of you,
book.
actually. I don't know how you have the hair is killing it today.
Oh, thank you. Clearly, we have no fun around here. It's a thing. Thought of the day: light, love, and magic. Oh, I do it fun. It was wild. Absolutely. Oh my God, do you know we're still on live, Rob? Right now.
You gotta be kidding.
Talking to my angels.
That's hilarious.
love what you do, you don't work a day in your life, right? I absolutely love what I do.
Yeah,
we couldn't do what we do without the support of you watching. Thank you for sharing, for DMing, for commenting, for continuing to support us as we grow and scale our vision. For the people in the studio and their friends and families for having our backs. We're so grateful.
That's right. And I'm most deeply and genuinely grateful for you. Truly I am, Jazz. It's just a pleasure every day to get to connect with you and work with you. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you. I'm so grateful for you. We love you, Romac. There isn't a man or woman who hasn't met you and said you're the best dressed person in Los Angeles and the happiest guy we know. It's an honor to be able to do this show with you.
Appreciate that.
Welcome back to EverTalk Live. I am beyond honored to welcome Elle Russ back to the show. And this time we're talking confident as F, living a life we really dream of. Thank you so much for being back with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I couldn't be more excited for you in this book.
It's a great topic, Elle. Great topic. What inspired you to write the book?
You know, I think as you guys might have noticed throughout your life, you tend to attract maybe a certain type of person to you. It doesn't matter what it is, and you see a theme. And my theme was people would come to me for pep talks. How do I go to tell that bully off? Or how do I go ask for the raise and declare my work? So I noticed that people were coming to me for confidence. However, and I know you guys know this because you're alpha and you're outwardly confident too, and that's not what this book is about. It's not about getting to a level of performance confidence. It's about inside and outside and all encompassing. And part of that is really scraping off the barnacles in your life, whether it be parental garbage, current circumstances, downers and toxic people in your life to get to the point where you're all encompassing, confident as F. So what I also realized is these people that were coming to me for confidence were the opposite of the confidence pitfalls, which are vulnerability, like you mentioned earlier. We do not want to be vulnerable because we sense it as weakness and we're like, oh my gosh, that's like a nightmare to a confident person or to an alpha person. But I argue in this book that in order to be confident as F, you have to be vulnerable because that is the ultimate in what you talk about in your book, which is not caring about what other people think of you, only what you think of you, you know?
I just love that, Elle. So where does a person start with that? Obviously, they're going to start with the book. But, you know, I think a lot of folks think, well, you know, I love the idea, and it's super scary to just start being an open book for other people, and are they going to judge me? And so where does a person start? Clearly, they have to start within themselves, but what might they do to begin?
Well, here's the thing. So you could be at ground zero with confidence and like be debilitatingly shy. So in this instance like that, you'd want to get a social coach to bring you out so you could just talk to people. And I know people like this who have been debilitatingly shy and now are extremely outgoing, but they really had to even just be able to talk to a barista at the Starbucks. So if you're there at ground zero, that's where you start there. If you're not at ground zero and you're like, you know, I've heard people say, gosh, I really know my stuff, but my problem is confidence. So you have a confidence in your ability or knowledge about a thing, but not in putting it out there. Well, that's not confidence either. You can also talk on stage to 50,000 people. That's not confidence because then you get into your real life and you can't speak up in a relationship or you can't be vulnerable. I don't suggest that everyone does a Facebook Live or write a book about whatever it is that they need to be vulnerable about, but you have to start opening up to people. Maybe that's sharing some stories that you're a little bit, you feel might be weak. For example, Jeslyn and I write about this in the book with Jeslyn. My biggest key to becoming confident is F. I was confident in every area of my life, but what I was shoving under the rug was this shame I have about a permanent hand disability I have that you can't see. You can't see hers either, and I connected with Jeslyn on this. I carried such great shame about this, and I know you know, we had this conversation. A shame is a deep sense of unworthiness. And if it is lingering, and I don't care if you have a mole on your back you're embarrassed of, or maybe you were an addict back in the day and you're embarrassed about your behavior. I don't care what you're ashamed about, but whatever it is, you're afraid people are going to reject you for. It doesn't mean, look, you might need to take it to the grave. I'm not saying things aren't better left unsaid, but you have to go work it out. I don't care if it's with a coach or a therapist, you have to get flat with it. You have to get to the point where you have no shame about your shame. This really affected my personal relationships and romantic relationships because I was too afraid I'd be rejected, seen as weak, seen as a liability, being damaged goods. Who's going to return? I attracted romantic relationships where people were emotional robots. They were not emotionally available. And it wasn't until my coach said to me, you know what, Elle, I had a breakup 7 years ago with someone I really thought I was going to marry. Lovely guy. He was just not emotionally available. And I thought, my gosh, what a cruel joke. He's got everything on my list, but the one thing he doesn't have is kind of a deal breaker. And my coach said, did you tell him about your story? You've been with this guy for a year, you met his kids, everything. I said, no. He goes, well, then guess what? You're the emotional robot. What did you think to attract? Ouch. Right. It was so harsh, but it was like me. Oh, me with the sword right through my stomach. And so I was like, so I started to have to be like, I got to get good with this. And one of my first exposés into being like open and vulnerable about it was actually a woman before I met Jeslyn, telling her about my story, and she goes, oh, that's funny, I have a hand disability. Then I'm talking to Jeslyn on the Primal Blueprint podcast, interviewing her, and she mentions her story, which I didn't know, and I put the microphone on mute and started crying, and I talk about this in the book because in that moment, in just a month of sharing my vulnerability, being open with a couple of strangers about my shame and of my disability, 2 women with hand injuries that you can't see showed up. Wow. If that's not like the universe saying, keep going in this direction. And now I have no shame about my shame, but I could not get through my disability story without sobbing my eyes out just a few years ago. So it really crippled 20 years of my life. So again, here I am, confident on the outside in everything that I do, every area of my life. But if you think that you can shovel something under the rug like that and not have it affect other areas of your life, you're wrong. So you got to get to it. Yeah. So shame is one thing, it disables confidence. And I did a speech called The Shame of Disability and the Disability of Shame, because the shame was more disabling than the disability itself, really, you know? And I'll stop there, but I could keep going.
No, it's just so interesting because I've done the exact same thing. You shove it right under a rug and you're like, I'm just not gonna let anybody see that dust under there because nobody's gonna want me if they do see that. Yeah. And it's reflected in so many other areas of my life. So I over-index for strength and don't want anybody to get too close, because the second they say I can't button my own shirt, who's gonna wanna put me on their insurance?
I get goosebumps because, you know, my first thought when I got disabled 20 years ago was, oh my God, who's going to ever want me? I've got dead arms. I don't know that at 22 I would choose a guy who had dead arms. Like, I don't want to be a hypocrite. Like, who's going to want me? I know one of your first thoughts was, oh my gosh, I can't feel my hand when you got out of surgery. Who's ever going to want to put a ring on it? I mean, these are deep senses of like feeling unworthy or a liability. You're damaged. When you become disabled in any way, you are suddenly now completely different than the rest of the world. And you're fearful about how you're going to support yourself. This is a hand-based world. People in wheelchairs who can use their hand have way more job opportunities than Jeslyn and I. Thankfully, we can use our voice, and that story's in there about how I got to that point. But aside from shame, we got to get rid of downers in our life. We got to get rid of these people. And here's how we've all done it. We've got to stop being downers, and we've got to get rid of them. How do you know? Whenever you've had that thought and someone telling you a dream, or like, I got an idea, and you go, good luck with that. And inside your head, you're going, good luck with that. You'll be flying back in no time from Hollywood. When you say that, you're hoping for someone else's failure, really. We've got to check ourselves there on when we're being downers and how do you take it when someone is going to project a lack of confidence onto you, because the world is going to do it. So you've got to self-talk. No one's going to do this for you. You're it for you. So that's what this book is about. It's like, get into the self-examination and get inspired. And it's through stories, relatable stories. This is not a book of acronyms and tidy to-do lists. You know, this is about every story you're reading to go, yep, okay, that was me. I've been there. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I think it's so important to have the conversation of confidence, especially for the people who appear confident. You know, and so people can truly relate.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, I was, I didn't struggle with the disabilities that you guys have struggled with, but I was voted most shy in my high school class, and there was no close second. Like, I didn't talk to anybody about anything ever. I know.
That's why it's changeable. You fix it.
Yeah, and there was no one thing that I hated about myself. I hated everything. There was nothing I didn't hate about myself. I mean, practically everything. And I remember, and there's nothing worse for like the most shy person to be, sort of asked to do than to speak in front of people, right? But I remember at that point in time, like really making a commitment that I needed to learn, like some basic social skills. I needed to learn how to love myself and be confident. And it would have been so nice to have had a social coach or something like that, because part of the challenge, I think, and the opportunity is that you want to be increasingly vulnerable and you want to put yourself out there, but you also have to be selective about that, because there's a tendency to put yourself out there to people who you're trying to put yourself to, and you often only get back more reasons to be insecure.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They're the very folks that judge you. Yes.
Yeah, and I say it's not about proving them wrong, it's about proving yourself awesome. Do you know what I mean? Because and again, you don't have to wear it on your sleeve and do a Facebook Live about your vulnerabilities, but you have to start to open up in little areas, and maybe that's with, your tight circle at first. And, we got to get rid of also what I call parental garbage. Okay, stories and labels that are put on you in the past. Maybe it's in your family, you're always labeled the brat or the lazy one. And a brief example of this is a story in my book with Brandon, who his whole life, great family, no one wanted for anything, no one was starving, no one was beaten. However, his dad was a little bit of a hothead, and let's say the hammer went missing, and he'd blame Brandon for it, and then Brandon would be like, I didn't take it, kept blaming him for it. He'd find the hammer, he'd never apologize, and this kind of stuff went on. So this translated into his work life. He got to Hollywood, he's a contractor, and every job he's on, something goes wrong, even if it's not his fault, he's blamed for it and patronized in front of everyone. And I was like, well, this is interesting. This doesn't happen to me, Mary, or Joe. So why you? It's not that I'm a better employee than you. Why you? And you dig back. There's the story. And the first part of that is, you don't have to be wrong. Like, just getting Brandon to understand you didn't have to be wrong. The next step was, okay, he was going to speak up. And the next time he was patronized, it was going to be something to the effect of, hey, look, if you're not going to talk to me in a professional tone or manner, I'm walking off this job. I'd take a little mustering. You got to have some money saved for that because you're going to walk out on a job. Like, you know, you got food to put on the table, and wait a minute on that. And then what he did is he spoke up finally. He finally did, said it. What happened? What happens usually when you approach a bully? They acquiesce. They don't know what to do. They shut down. He apologized, never happened again. And then from there on out, Brandon attracted contracts where nothing went wrong. And people would email him afterwards and say, oh my gosh, this was great. Now, I do believe this. God, universe, whatever you believe in. You conquer a thing that's been long-lived, a pattern, you conquer it, you're gonna get a tester. So even though you've overcome it, you might get thrown one tester to be like, did you really learn that lesson?
Yeah.
And he got one tester, stepped up to the plate, and the thing is that it's uncomfortable to speak up in those moments. That's a little acting as if in those moments. I'm not talking about pontificating confidence, but that is a moment that's uncomfortable, but that's what this is about. Getting comfortable with uncomfortability. He stepped through that, and my gosh, I wish I could bottle the level of self-esteem that was flowing through him every time.
He was confident as
Now, what a great work life he has. But that's an example of parental garbage affecting your current life. I mean, this was going on until he was 40. And it was just a story, a label, and you know about that. It's just a story that was imprinted in there that he took on. And again, an expectation. He expected things to like go wrong with an authority figure. These things, if you get into them and you deconstruct them, you know, and then get over them, it's a whole new life.
And it's great to have someone who's already been there and done that. Hence the book.
Yeah.
Yes.
Al, please tell everyone where they can find, follow you, and of course, get your book.
Sure. So you can follow me on Instagram, where I'm most active at lruss, and then also lruss.com, ELLERUSS, and my book is on print and Kindle on Amazon.
Love it. So appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank
We
you, guys.
love you. Keep streaming.
You too.
We'll be back with more on EverTalk Live.
Stop, you're embarrassing yourself. We can't be seen in public. It is frequently misdiagnosed. It is frequently underdiagnosed. Coughing, blinking, twitching, which mimics unrelated conditions. It all leads to this. It all leads to this. Yeah, I got a glitch like this. Yeah, I gotta be this way. Yeah, another fit again. It can't control me. Yeah, I got a glitch like this. Always on repeat this way. Yeah, I always switch like this. It can't control me.
Welcome back to EverTalk Live. Our next guest has just released his debut album, The Path to Forever. That was one of your latest singles, 12 in the Neck. Nolan Gross, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me in. It means a lot.
So tell us a little bit about your personal journey and what's inspired your art and your music.
Yeah. So I've had Tourette's since I was 7, or at least that's what I've known. And it's always been something that I didn't know I had Tourette's until maybe like 10. So a lot of this song kind of depicts like my parents not knowing that and me not knowing that and being told to stop like doing my tics, and because I can't control having my Tourette's, and that's what I talk about in the song. And that was the first song I ever made with 5 dudes that really just believed in what I had to say, and they had been making music and had more experience than I had. And they really helped me shape that song and get that out of me, because I had never written any songs like that before. And going into the studio the first time and them being like, hey, let's help you get this out of you. And it was a super powerful experience, because I broke free of a lot of things making that song. And that's kind of what I wanted to show in that music video, of like how I was feeling and how I felt trapped. And that's why there's no color in the video in that space until the end, because I'm finally free of that. Wow. And that's what the song shows, like it can't control me at the end. So
profound. You know, I think with Tourette's, a lot of the motor skills and the neurological stuff gets most of the attention, and we don't often hear folks get to talk about how they felt emotionally, sort of being trapped. So would you say that trapped was the best word, or the one word that described your experience the most? Like, what was that? How does that feel emotionally?
Yeah, emotionally trapped. That's a good like representation of that. Yeah. Because not being able to share that, like only maybe 10 or 15 people knew like that I had Tourette's before this, and I've been dealing with this for 10 years now. And not that I didn't want to share with people, it's just, how do you bring that up to somebody? You know, like I didn't know how to bring that up in conversation, and I didn't feel the need to like share that with people right off the bat, because I didn't want them to like have stigmas and connotations like towards me. Yeah. So I did feel trapped not being able to like fully express that, but once I made the song, it was like I broke free of being trapped, and I broke free of getting Botox, which is why it's called 12 in the neck, and that's what the cover photo shows, of like, because Botox is supposed to help like tighten up muscles, and over time it rewires your brain to stop. And I wasn't getting Botox to like look younger. Yeah. Like, pretty young. All right, I'm young enough. So that was like, that's why I wanted to make a statement with that. And like, even though it might have turned people off with like the needle going in my neck, it was like, that's what happened. So it's like,
no, I love the increased awareness around it. Really important. I didn't know that.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
So why now for you? I mean, you've had such great success as an artist, as an actor, but why release this music now?
I feel like it was just the time. I started this journey basically last year on my birthday, February 28th, and our friend Dave Tosti just saw this in me. He asked my dad, like, why is Nolan not making music? And my dad was like, I don't know. And he told my mom that, and my mom's like, just look at the fridge. And it was a magnet that I made in kindergarten, and it said, when I grow up, I want to be a rock star. And my dad was like, it's in front of us the whole time, we just got to look up, you know?
Wow.
So I went to the studio, made 12 in the Neck in April of 2019, and I just grinded out the album in like 30 days maybe. And then through that time I made music videos, made all the art, and I put out the first song in September, and then I put out an EP with some of the songs that are on the album in November. And we were like, when are we gonna put out the album? And it was like, put it out on your birthday, because it was like a full circle moment. And all of this has been brewing inside of me. I've always wanted to, everything that I've ever done and learned has led up to this, and all the skills I've just kind of like,
it's a rebirth in a way.
Yeah.
I think it's ironic and really beautiful that you would release it on your birthday, right? Very meaningful. It's wild to me. 30 days is pretty quick to make an entire album.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
How do you do that?
Well, it wasn't like 30 straight, but it was like I added it up on my phone. I was like, this is crazy. Like all the songs we made like 5 songs in 5 days. Wow. And you know, people like work on albums for years.
Yeah, exactly.
But I feel like I was working on this album in my head for years. Yeah. And finally being able to get that out was just easy for me. So we made all the demos and basically like almost finals, and then it got mixed and mastered over time. But like the base idea is like in 30 days, 11 songs. I was like,
incredible.
Hey, what's the story with the title, The Path to Forever?
So the cover art is like me in this like figure of light, and I'm going up this this mountain hill. It's almost in like this spacey type of vibe. And my friend made that art, and I already had the name. I said, hey, I want something like futuristic, but like something that people can grab onto. And the path to forever for me, it was like everything leading up to this, my 16 years of life so far, has been like me learning what I want to do and like where I want to shape my life and what I want to do. And making this music showed me like, this is what I want to do forever. And like, this is the path to forever. Like, this is one milestone in my life that like will set up the rest of my life. So I was like, these songs are shaping the path to forever. So wow. I wanted to put that out there.
Speaking of shaping, who are your favorite artists? Besides yourself.
Oh, I have so many.
Yeah.
There's too many. Like
yeah.
I could go either way, but right now, Lainey, Billie Eilish, Dominic Fike, Brockhampton, Kanye, like just people that have inspired this album. And you know, over time, it's just like pulling inspiration from different people I love and making it my own. So it's been like really fun to just like, people are like, oh, this reminds me of like that one song, but it's you.
Yeah.
And I love things like that.
That's exciting.
But it's you.
Yeah.
You as an artist, what do you want to be known for?
That's a great question. I want to be known for authenticity and just sharing myself. Yeah. Like, I want to inspire people to just do whatever they want, because I know that like the artists that I like don't hold back from that, and they inspire me to like go out and do crazy things, like outfits I wear and like things that I want to say. And I just want to be an outlet where people can look at me and just be like, I can be myself, you know? And really resonate with that.
That is your path to forever.
Oh, thank you.
Please tell everyone where they can find and follow you, and of course get your music.
You can follow me on Instagram, Spotify, any streaming platform at Nolan Gross, and yeah, the album's out.
12 in the neck.
Yes.
After forever.
Yes.
Love it, brother.
Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Keep streaming. We'll be back with more on EverTalk Live. 4, 3, 2. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm your host, Jez Mouillet, aka The Trading Bell. What a morning it will be. Due to recent news, we're expecting that the market will be down today, but that could potentially present some opportunity for us. Let's take a look at our watch list. One of the things that differentiates the Trading Bell from any of the other stock shows, other than we do live trading, is everything that we do is on camera, so you can see it as it happens. You are seeing what's happening right now in this moment. 2020, it's all about money, money, money. That is my motto. Remember, money never sleeps, pal. That's right. That's why I'm here trading in Los Angeles live with you at the opening bell. Whew, sun is not even up yet, but the stocks are on the move. Numbers are moving faster than I can even speak. Well, let's face it. I'm excited. I'm thrilled. I've got goosebumps. This is a history in the making. Top of the list, SVRA up 154% this morning. Filled BBI at 162. Oh, that feels good. BPH, Spring Baked Pharmaceuticals up 22%. That is going to make for a very sweet start to 2020. Filled. Woo! That feels good. Just a disclaimer, this is an entertainment show, so please don't treat any of the information you hear on the show as an investment advice, because trading is risky. What's on the year strong? Visit EverTalk TV, Facebook, or Instagram at The Trading Bell. Remember, every dream has its price. What's yours? Welcome back to EverTalk Live. We are here with the gorgeous Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Love the look, the Fendi stockings, killed it.
Yeah, I tried. Thank you. My mom dresses me.
Does she?
No, she really does. She's like, put on that, put on those shoes. And at the beginning, I used to fuss like, those don't look right. Every time I wear what she tells me to wear, like the Bible says, it's better to be obedient than sacrifice. I get compliments all day long, only on the piece that she tells me to wear. So now I'm obedient. I'm like, those are the shoes.
Gotta
That's the
always
dress.
listen to mom.
That's it.
I hope you put that advice in this book.
not in this one.
Save it.
But she is in the acknowledgments, so she's in there.
I'm sure she's a proud mama. So tell us about Mental Detox.
Oh, Mental Detox. I wrote this book in 2014, and I had no idea that this book would change literally so many lives. So when I first attempted to write it, I had what I didn't know then, but now writer's block, because I wanted the book to be perfect, and I wanted it to sound exactly, like this poetic flow, and just people read it and be blown away by how articulate, right, and how smart Dr. Bryant was, and she knows what she's talking about. And God said, that's not it, baby. And so I prayed and I said, give me the words to write. I want every reader to receive your will. What will that be? I just want to be a vessel for you. 30 days I wrote that thing, had it edited, and had that thing published.
Wow.
That's the power of surrender. That's the power of saying, I give myself away. How will you use me? I want to be of service. And I thought I was just going to write a book. And it ended up being #1 on Google, the reader's favorite 5-star in the world. And I'm going, wow. And again, God goes, obedience. You don't have to sacrifice. And I'm grateful. And from then, people are just saying, I was suicide and I read your book. And you talked about law of attraction, and you talked about my thoughts being what creates my circumstance. You talked about the power that I have within myself. You talked about plugging into source, and you taught me what source was. You talked about meditation and how it brings you back to your authentic self. And you talked about not living in dogma. And those are all the things that I didn't know. And I say, no, you knew them. They just weren't stimulated. And so when you get in contact with what you already are, something called alignment happens. And when you're in alignment creates harmony. And then you get into what I call God's peace. And in that space, there is nobody but you. You're always experiencing self.
So I'm very curious, though. Did you grow up in alignment, or was there a shift in your life where you were realigned?
Now you get to the meat and potatoes.
Exactly.
Contrast, polarity. I grew up in a beautiful family-oriented home. Lots of trauma and dysfunction. And because of the trauma and dysfunction, and because of the effect that it had on me, I said, I got to figure something out. I got to figure out how I can have peace, how I can be a sturdy oak, not get weary in well-doing, while the world is doing this, right? Because my world as a kid was doing this. And I had to figure out how to survive. But then once I became an adult, I said, what I learned was that my pain was choosing for me. My survival mechanism was choosing for me. They were choosing relationships for me. They were choosing friends for me. They were choosing how I chose to react towards things, how I chose to exhibit my anger. And it wasn't always pretty, because hurt people, and healed people heal people. And I was a hurt person, and I was hurting people. And so when I took a self-inventory of my role in my life when I became an adult, well, I was an adult by number, but obviously I was still operating as a dysfunctional child. And I said, I got to figure out how to thrive, because I don't plan on dying anytime soon. And if I'm going to live 50, 60, 70, 80 more years, I can't survive like this. I got to be able to thrive. And I got to start really being alive, not just, that's living. Breathing, that's just you have breath. But are you living, right? Do you have a life internally inside of you? Because your external world is always a direct reflection of your internal world. So you want to know what you're experiencing, you want to know who you are, look at your external world. Walk into your house, get into your car, you have a conversation with your friends. That's who you are. That's who you know. Why? Because we don't see in others who they are, we see in others who we are. And so we're choosing us all the time. So when you understand that it's only you, and you never know who Jesus Christ is, you treat everybody with humility, because you don't know who that is. And if it's you that you're experiencing, and you learn and grow into self-love, you're going to see in them what you see in you. So what I see in you two is two beautiful, purposeful human beings who are amazing, who deserve everything in life, right? Who deserve their heart's desires, who are vulnerable, who deserve the love and the compassion, who mean well. And if it comes out something opposite, then, well, you made a mistake. You made a mistake. You know why? I can see that in you. Yeah, you know what I mean?
I'm receiving right now.
But I can see it in you because I have learned to love me from a place of unconditioned. I've learned to say, you messed up on a word, that's okay, that's okay. You know, there's a typo, it's all right.
How did you master that self-forgiveness, though? Because that's very difficult for me, being someone who can relate to you wanting to write a perfect book. I need to live a perfect life and look good doing it.
So, and I tell this to my clients all the time, and I'm not sure if you do too as a coach, but I say, you know, when we process and we get in contact with what your triggers are, there's some good stuff that comes out of it, and there's some ugly stuff that comes out of it. The good stuff is you know what they are. The bad stuff is you know what they are. Because when they show up, now you're responsible for managing them. So when you learn what your triggers are, it doesn't help you because they never go away. They may pop up less as consistent, but now you have to learn to manage them because when they come up, you know what they are. So now you're face to face with that Goliath. And learning to manage them pulls out the David in you. And you learn that. And so for myself, not understanding my triggers. I mean, I grew up, you know, a traumatic childhood, and I had a lot of abandonment issues. And if you know anything about abandonment really turns and looks at self in the face and says, you know, you're not good enough. This person's gonna leave you like the person who left you. And you think you're perfect? Psh, really? You see those strands of hair that's missing? That lipstick? That looks ugly on your pale skin. You're beautiful. I'm just saying this for the sake of this conversation.
Jess was an actor.
But I'm just saying. So when you begin to attack yourself, which is self-sabotage, is self-inflicting pain. Self-inflicting pain is an emotional thing as well. And I tell my clients this, at what point are you going to get fed up with being fed up? When you get to that point, that is the most miraculous, beautiful space you can ever be in, because the cure for the pain is in the pain. Because when you get fed up with the pain, you do what I tell people to do when you feel fear. I say you look it dead in the eye, you feel it, and you do it anyways. And so when pain gets to the point where it tops you off, and that's all your cup is filling up with, and it's running over, and that's why the people underneath your cup, they get the pain too, because we're just little self-projectors. You turn to pain and you say, not today, not anymore, and we're gonna have this conversation. Sit down. And that's when I went to my therapist. And I remember going to our first session, and I'm sitting there, remember I'm still Miss Perfect, and I'm just like, and she goes, well, if you don't have any issues, then why are you here? We don't need a session. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, she's a, right? I'm like,
Exactly.
She's special.
she's special. And then I said, you know what? She's exactly what God knew I needed. Because I'm a tough cookie. And if you tell me more, I'm gonna tell you more of all the things that look pretty and all the moving parts that come together. And she's saying, I can see that, I get that, but that's not why you're in my office. What's up? Spit it out. What's going on? Or leave my office, stop wasting my time. And I was like, wow. So the next session, all I did was cry and spill and say, I'm broken and this and this. She goes, that's it. That's where your healing is. And you've been afraid of yourself. How many people are roaming around in all ages, all genders, all spaces, running from their self, from themselves? And then they get into these relationships and they're going, how come I can't find a good mate? You don't even like you. And people can only give you what you have, because we receive what we perceive. So even if the most perfect man, a perfect mate sat here in front of you and said, will you marry me? I love you for all of you. You couldn't see that in yourself. You couldn't receive it from them. That's why, the saying is, God only gives you what you can handle, won't give you more than you can handle. That's really won't give you more than you are able to perceive, because I'm wasting my time if I give you. I have a really cute story in relation to this. When I was 16, I wanted a car. I got my license. My dad had like a SL 550, some Mercedes-Benz.
Hey, Dad.
Yeah, right? A two-seater. And he wanted to give that to me. Well, I wanted a 4-door Honda Civic. That's just what I wanted. I wanted a candy apple red 4-door Honda Civic. And he could not get, for the life of him, why I wanted him to buy me a Honda Civic, and he had this Mercedes-Benz two-seater to give it to me today. I got a different perception.
You can buy 4 Honda Civics.
I got a different perception. But back then I'm going, but Daddy, I want a Honda Civic. And he's going, babe, are you sure? Sleep on it. I slept on it. I woke up, I want my 4-door Honda Civic with my little rims on it. My point of that is my father trying to give me something that his mindset has been expanded to understand the value of, that I did not understand the value of. I could not receive. We receive at the level that we believe and that we perceive. Does that make sense? So if you don't understand and believe your worth, and believe the source that you have in you, and believe your power, and believe that, yes, there is a big God, but all of us are little gods. And when we plug into the source, right, we cannot be no different than our creator. We're a thumbprint of our creator. So whoever you believe your creator to be, you have those powers as well.
I'm plugging in for the Mercedes.
Plug into it.
Get that SL.
Get it. Yeah, now Daddy's like, no, you can get your own stuff. But do you get what I mean? So we have to really be, we have to be aware of those things. Definitely be aware of those things. And I came into that space, and I'm trying to give it to everyone else, because peace is real, and that's where the real liberation is, and that's where the real success is. Priceless.
Please tell everyone where they can find and follow you. And of course, get your book.
Sure, at drbryant.co. That's .co, not .com. I'm on Instagram at _Dr. Bryant. Facebook is Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. And if you Google Mental Detox Dr. Bryant, it's #1 on Google. It's on Amazon, it's on Barnes & Noble, and everywhere online. So Google, and just be good to yourself, love yourself, and remember that you never know who Jesus Christ is. So treat everybody with humility and with love. Thank you.
Love that.
Amen. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Keep streaming. We will be live all week at 9 a.m. and we'll see you soon, Miami.
That's right. Have a great day on purpose. See you tomorrow.
Happy Monday.
Hey, Jazz.